Thank you very much, Dr. Simon, for introduction and for good words. Good morning, colleagues, dear friends. I'm very happy to be here in front of you to deliver my second State of the Region address. Before I start my speech, I want to thank all of you who are working tirelessly to make this event a reality. Last year, exactly, we were here at this house to make my first year State of the Region address, but I am seeing that this one is big in terms of number of media and also the participation of all our member states. So I'm very happy to be here to address our region of 250 million people region, which have a lot of things that I'm going to explain. Thank you very much. Shukran. Asante sana. Your Excellencies, the distinguished members of the IGAD Committee of Ambassadors, honorable representatives of fellow citizens of the IGAD region drawn from the various cross-border cluster areas, our esteemed partners, both here and outside the region, who have joined us online, my brothers and sisters, members of the IGAD family, fellow citizens of the IGAD region, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege and honor to have the opportunity to deliver the second State of the Region address. This annual reflection comes as I commemorate my 2 years in office and mark a halfway point of my first term as the Executive Secretary of our illustrious organization. 375 days ago, at a time like this, we gathered here in the historic city of Mombasa for the Median State of IGAD region address. In the 1 year and 10 days that have elapsed, we have witnessed seismic events in our region that have tried our collective resolve and tested our resilience. If 2020 was a difficult year for our region, 2021 laid even more difficult challenges at our feet and exacted to heavy toll in our resolve. I will once more open this year's State of the Region address by inviting us all to mediate on the preamble of the 1996 agreement established IGAD, our organization. The paragraph of the preamble set out the aspiration of the forerunners of the further generation to come, of which we are the first. We are determined to overcome the recover from the multitude of challenges that continue to beset us even now. And in keeping with our reputation as adaptive innovators, we still create opportunities to bounce back bigger, better, and bolder. The orientation of the biggest challenges in 2021 shifted from the natural hazard posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, desert locust invasion and flooding, and pivoted abruptly to focus on peace, security, and stability of our region. It is this point that I would like to take you to appreciate the foresight of the founding fathers of IGAD, who 10 years after the establishment of our August organization convened on the 25th of November 1996 to lead the way in examining the other deterrents to development affecting our region and consider effective way of overcoming them. Our founding fathers were of the same minds as the late Samora Machel, President of the Republic of Mozambique and a true son of Africa, who once said, international solidarity is not an act of charity. It is an act of unity between allies, equal unity on different terrains, moving toward to the same objective. And the foremost of the objective is to aid the development of humanity to the highest level possible. From a one-dimensional institution whose focus was confined to responding to drought and related natural disasters, our leaders armed the revitalized IGAD with an enlarged mandate that, among other priorities, opened the door for IGAD to intercede in the fundamental issue of peace, security, and stability. In responding to these and other conflict issues affecting our region, IGAD has always been guided by the provision set out in Article 6A of the 1996 agreement establishing IGAD, which mandate us. I will quote from our agreement that maintain regional peace, stability, and security by pursuing the peaceful settlement of both intra-state and interstate conflicts through dialogue, while at the same time respecting the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of member states and upholding their sovereign equality. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the internal challenges affecting two of our largest member states, our chair, the Republic of Sudan, and our rapporteur, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, is undeniably a cause of serious anxiety within our region and beyond. In the case of Sudan, the disruption of the transition to civilian rule in September of this year became a matter of concern not only for IGAD, but for our continent and international community as well. This situation is threatening to undermine public confidence in the progress that had been made so far in readmitting Sudan to the community of nations. Furthermore, the developments endangered the tireless mediation efforts led by His Excellency President Salva Kiir last over 25 months and culminating in the historic Juba Peace Agreement to end the war in Darfur that was signed in June of this year, to which IGAD is a guarantor. IGAD was therefore greatly relieved that last month the government of Sudan listened to the call of all the people of Sudan to reinstate Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, restore civilian rule, and release of political leaders that had been detained. However, as the situation is still active, IGAD remains fully engaged in Sudan and committed to work with the government to fulfill the aspiration of the people of Sudan. And we are very sure the people and the government of Sudan will resolve this thing for once and forever. Excellencies, within this framework, IGAD has therefore been actively engaged in applying quiet diplomacy through the good office of our various heads of states and governments as an instrument for resolving the peace and security challenges prevalent in our region. In this regard, we are particularly grateful for the effort made by the people of Sudan, all parties to the conflict, and the international community toward resolving this situation. IGAD therefore reiterates its call upon the people and government of Sudan to remain engaged in constructive dialogue and positive actions geared toward the return of civilian rule and realization of the aspiration reflected in the 2019-2024 roadmap to civilian leadership outlined in the peace agreement. Your Excellencies, the IGAD citizens, the situation in Ethiopia has filled us always also with concern. Ethiopia has for the longest time been a pillar of peace and security, a beacon of stability and anchor of all major things in Africa. It has the singular destination being the only uncolonized state in the entire continent of Africa. As a nation, Ethiopia have always worn this badge with honor and recognized the obligation that comes with this status to be champions of liberty for Africans, brothers and sisters, and wherever. The historical record speaks clearly to the pivotal role that Ethiopia played in the liberation struggle of her sister countries in Africa. As a headquarter of our Continental organization, and in addition to all reasons that I have elaborated upon before, it is of utmost importance for IGAD and Africa to learn that the situation in Ethiopia does not escalate any further and a solution is found as soon as possible, while respecting the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ethiopia. IGAD places great confidence and trust in the wisdom of Ethiopians to chart the path to lasting peace and calls upon all people of goodwill to be in solidarity with Ethiopia as it works to find a lasting solution to this conflict. Within the framework of our delegated mandates, IGAD has been working in close conjunction with the leadership of the region to help to resolve this conflict. I therefore want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the timely efforts of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, who has been working tirelessly on behalf of the IGAD region to prevail upon the government of Ethiopia to resolve this conflict. IGAD further appreciates the efforts of our regional leaders, His Excellency President Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of Djibouti, His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, His Excellency President Salva Kiir of South Sudan, and His Excellency President Abdullah Farmajo of Somalia, who each in their own unique way are working with the government of Ethiopia to end the conflict. IGAD also deeply appreciates the ongoing efforts being made by the other ambassadors, including the African Union, of peace from Africa and across the world, who have also been working diligently to bring about a final resolution to the conflict. Regional peace and security has also begun recording some setbacks as a result of rippling effects in other parts of our region as well. Of principal concern on this is weakening of the regional response to Al-Shabaab and other terror groups. We are also alive to the prospect of these conflicts, facilitating the future proliferation of illegal firearms to the region and the coming back of Al-Shabaab as a terrorist organization. Already we have documented, Your Excellencies, an increase in the number of terror attacks in Somalia, observed the escape and apprehension of terror suspects in Kenya. Most sadly, we witnessed the bombing in Kampala that claimed the lives of innocent people. At this juncture, I take this opportunity on behalf of IGAD to once again categorically condemn all acts and terror and extend our condolences to the victims, families, and friends who have been affected by the heinous attacks, the heinous terror attacks. Your Excellencies, in all instances, IGAD deeply regret for the loss of life, destruction of property, violation of human rights, and the looming humanitarian crisis that have arisen as a result of this kind of conflicts. Turning now to South Sudan, I will begin by drawing our attention to the tremendous progress the country has made in implementing the peace agreement, and particularly Chapter 1 of the governance argument. Now, we are talking about South Sudan with government, with coalition government, and moving with all its challenges ahead. I would, however, like to emphasize that the successful implementation of Chapter 2, which is very important, on the paramount ceasefire and transitional security arrangement will mark a turning point for the peace process in South Sudan. It is issues around the implementation of provisions of the chapter that triggered an internal dispute with SPLM-IO and resulted in clashes in the border area of Jabal Meghins in August of this year. IGAD immediately engaged with the parties to the internal disputes and encouraged the opinion of avenues and dialogue. Our engagement established that the unification and redeployment of the necessary unified forces is an urgent priority to the Republic of South Sudan. In this regard, IGAD, in conjunction with our partners on the ground, is providing a necessary political support and have called upon the revitalized transitional government to allocate and avail the required financial and material resources for this undertaking. IGAD similarly called upon the international community to lift those sanctions that are obstacles to the effective implementation of the revitalized agreement on the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. IGAD also welcomes the recent overturns of His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni alongside Kenyan Special Envoy to South Sudan and the Troika partners to hold the long overdue retreat for the leadership of South Sudan as a confidence-building measures to accelerate the implementation of the peace agreement. Your Excellencies, at this point, I want to thank the Special Envoy of IGAD to South Sudan, Ambassador Wais, who is working for the last 4 or 5 years tirelessly representing our organization and also the effort of our leaders. In Somalia, also led in convening and coordinating partners to prevail upon the leadership and peaceful resolve disputes across in the run-up of election. With this upcoming election, Your Excellencies, Somalia stands at the crossroad of destiny. They symbolize a historic moment in the country's road to revival, recovery, and renaissance. Whilst the process of the upper house was completed successfully last month, the process for the lower house is ongoing, with the IGAD looks forward to the successful conclusion. IGAD has been supporting the democratic transition and remains fully committed to assist the people and the government of Somalia to avert any regression to conflict and instability. We have a confidence on the leadership of Somalia and the people of Somalia. They can really prevail on the situation that they are moving. For Somalia, the most important task that we are looking is this election, democratic election, which fulfill the will of the people of Somalia. To counterbalance, Your Excellencies, the challenges we have been experiencing in peace and security, I am gratified to note that IGAD has also recorded some opportunities and successes. First and foremost, since election is one of the reflection of democracy, I want to commend Djibouti, Kenya, and Uganda have remained authors of peace and amidst the turbulence that has affected the region. IGAD takes this opportunity to congratulate His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni and the people of Uganda holding peaceful election in January. IGAD further applauds our host country and His Excellency President Ismail Gile for the fresh mandate accorded to him lead the nation by the people of Djibouti in April. In the same vein, IGAD congratulates His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali for his successful and democratic elections held in Ethiopia during the month of June this year. The upcoming election in Somalia and Kenya, Your Excellencies, dear brothers and sisters, will serve as a litmus test of how deep constitutionalism has taken root in our region. As IGAD, we wish the government and the people of Kenya and Somalia peaceful, democratic, and successful elections which for the coming time. IGAD is optimistic that democratic principles will continue to be upheld and the practice of peaceful resolution of disputes through legal channels will be further entrenched to all electoral process in the region. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind this gathering that we are all stakeholders in peace building. This is why I am also pleased to acknowledge the efforts at the grassroots level that IGAD has initiated to complement the high-level peace-building intervention that I have previously mentioned. Especially, I want to commend the efforts that we have doing in Somalia at the grassroots of peace building. And also, I want to thank our special envoy, Ambassador Guyot, who is working tirelessly to assist our brothers and sisters in Somalia. The IGAD, we say, Your Excellency, there cannot be real peace, security, or prosperity without women and youth. We are working on our half part of our population, that is women, by reorganizing our departments who really engaged the youth and the women who will be the determinant factors of the society, especially in our region, which is more than 65% of the population is youth. I am therefore delighted to connect with our new efforts to build peace and blow through initiatives such as the IGAD Youth and Women Forum for Peace, young poets and filmmakers who as peace ambassadors are working to counter the radicalization of our youth. I also welcome the formulation of prevention diplomacy and mediation protocol, which will further enhance our capacity to intervene in the situation of conflict. Excellencies, let me turn into the other developments issues in our region. I will begin with coronavirus, which has been with us now for 2 long years. Over this period of prevalence of the disease has risen 4 times, with infections increased from 250,000 this time last year to almost 900,000 at this time. And this also claimed 4 times as many as our brothers and sisters, from 5,000 at this time last year to 20,241 this year in our region. In keeping my period so far in office, we are now in our second year of implementing the regional emergency response strategy to COVID-19. Here, with the tremendous support of our partners from the European Union, the African Development Bank, and GIZ, among others, we have logged an equal number of successes and challenges. On one hand, this response strategy has made remarkable progress in identifying our most vulnerable population spread across 45 cross-border intervention sites in 7 countries of our member states. The strategy has reached more than 1.9 million people to deliver 6.2 million PPEs and 177,000 test kits. Additionally, IGAD has been facilitating the delivery of critical equipments consisting of 22 modern ambulances, 7 field utility vehicles, 7 mobile laboratories, and 40 PCR machines, which we have distributed to all our member states. This equipment is supplementing in the capacity of our member states for the prevention, testing, and tracking of the coronavirus in cross-border areas. These efforts are critical at the time when our region, and indeed the African continent, is still far behind the rest of the world in vaccination. As we speak, my brothers and sisters, the average rate of vaccination in IGAD region stands at only 6.6%. This is against the global average of 42.7%. That means 7 times more than we have vaccinated over people. So we are far, far beyond from the average. More worryingly, Your Excellencies, according to our continental health authorities, Africa has recorded an 83% increase in infection this past week alone. That has been attributed to the Delta and newly emerging Omicron variant of COVID-19 that is reportedly more transmissible and resistant to selected vaccines. I am therefore compelled to caution that, bearing these factors in mind, IGAD and Africa at large is now perhaps even more vulnerable than before the worst effects of the pandemic, not only in terms of pandemic, but also the effects in economy, employment, and other social issues. At the point in my address, I would therefore like to issue a special call to our partners to sit with us once more as we review our interventions and adjust them toward responding to what is most needed by our people with the context of emergency situation. We must therefore remain faithful to our original intention to strengthen our health systems, to have adequate capacity to cope with this and other pandemics. There is no alternative to enhancing the regional capability to test, trace, and vaccinate the most vulnerable sections of our population. And this is because none of us is safe until all of us, without exception, is safe. Alongside conflict and COVID, at the twin threats and drought and flooding, which combined pose a significant threat to our food security status of our region. My brothers and sisters, the IGAD component of 2021 Global Report on Food Crisis concludes that an estimated 37.2% or 27.2 million, or 1 out of every 7 people, are expected to be acutely food insecure in our region. The cocktail of climate change, conflict, and COVID, therefore, continues to drive displacement, in our region as a consequence of the challenges they pose to the physical, economic, and social security of our region. In the IGAD region, at approximately 5%, we have one of the highest rates of displacement, that is totaling 12.3 million people, which consisting of 4.2 million refugees and 8.1 million internally displaced persons. In order to mitigate these challenges, Your Excellencies, IGAD recognized the need for a comprehensive response strategy that is designed to simultaneously and effectively address multiple and mutually reinforcing hazards as they emerge. I am encouraged by the effort IGAD made in 2021 to originate a regional disaster risk management strategy. In October this year, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta launched the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center in Nairobi, Kenya, which houses a state-of-the-art weather forecast and modeling unit and disaster operations center, which belongs to our member states and which really serves our member states fully and daily. The information generated by the center significantly enhance our multi-hazard early warning and response capabilities and is being used by member states and partners to anticipate, predict, and mitigate climate change and related natural disasters, such as flood, drought, and pests, such as desert locust. IGAD has every intention for further building this capacity by establishing similar disaster monitoring situation units across all our member states in 2022 and beyond. In the same time, IGAD has been putting in place policy assets and robust mechanisms to stimulate economic development in the region and, where possible, reserve the outward flow of migration. 2 weeks ago, I was delighted to preside in Ali Sebe, Djibouti, over the launching of a $4.2 million project of infrastructural development and livelihood support targeting refugees and host communities in our region. Altogether, projects such as the supported by the policy instruments such as the Protocol on Free Movement and Transhuman, the Regional Infrastructural Master Plan, or Blue Economy Strategy, among many others, are the building blocks through which we will build our regional structure and deliver on our commitment to the continental integration agenda through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Your Excellencies, this brings to my intention for the next 2 years, and here I will classify them into 2 categories. Let me start with the exterior category, and this speaks to how the IGAD region responds to prevailing challenges, presents itself, and is perceived by the world. The fundamental priorities in this instance are 3. The first priority is restoration of peace, security, and stability in our region. This is because it's a bedrock upon which all other interventions to be built upon. IGAD commits to continue working in tandem with our member states and like-minded partners to realize a peaceful outcomes to active conflicts in the region. The second priority is effective prediction, prevention, and response to slow and sudden onset disasters. Already, IGAD has the making of a disaster response strategy, and following the launch of the Disaster Operations Center in Nairobi on the 27th of October this year, further commits to animate the disaster fund that was endorsed by the 38th extraordinary assembly of IGAD heads of state government in December 2020. The third priority is regional integration from below, using the principle of manageable installments. It is my intention, Your Excellencies, to inspire the formulation of IGAD-owned and IGAD-led projects that will accelerate our regional integration and at the community level and complete existing initiatives that have been generously funded by our partners, and also will help us to prioritize based upon the will and need of our member states. This approach constitutes the primary thrust to our intention to take IGAD to the people by directing a fraction of the resources we mobilize from our member states toward projects that directly benefit our citizens. For instance, in the Mandera Triangle, I was particularly impressed by the level of regional integration and community interdependence through shared health facilities that bring together the people of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia to one hospital, which bring all the patients from these countries and give a common service. So this kind of interventions really will bring more closer our member states and the people. However, the lack of usable bridge spanning to the river of Dawa limits the ability of the community to full advantage of the available health facilities. IGAD has undertaken to work closely with the national and international authorities and partners to address this gap in regional integration. Looking inward at the interior category of intention to the next 2 years, my brothers and sisters, I find that the roadmap for reform and revitalization that I shared with you a year ago during my inaugural State of the Region address remain sufficiently comprehensive to guide us in this regard. Last year, I methodically reported on the far-reaching reform agenda that we formulated to systematically transform IGAD into an organization for 21st century. The reform initiatives focus creating a conducive environment for the implementation of new IGAD strategy plan that is 2021-2025, which we will launch here today. IGAD expects that the 6 pillars that support the architecture of the strategy will act as both a blueprint and guideline for the upcoming reporting period between 2030 and 2063. With this time frame, we shall be taking stock of the extent in which we have fulfilled our shared aspirations as articulated in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and African Union Continental Transformation and Integration Agenda. This is the logic that inspired us to break the tradition, and instead of formulating a short 5-year strategy, we elected to think bigger, longer, and further. As a consequence, IGAD Regional Strategy Plan 2021 to 2025 is the first in a series of 6 sub-strategies, each running for 5 years, that are to be subsequently implemented toward the grand vision of IGAD 2050. I am encouraged by the scale of our ambition and our deliberate decision to prepare and plan for the next generation by casting our eyes 30 years ahead. It is our intention, Your Excellencies, to accelerate the process of setting a firm foundation for the security, development, and property of the estimated 400 million people that will be living in our region by 2050. The 7 principal priorities under the reform initiative include: number 1, revamping the human resource structure and improving internal human resource capacity, digital transformation of the IGAD Secretariat, construction of the new IGAD headquarters, instituting the IGAD Cancer Center of Excellence, establishing the implementation and awards and scholarship programs for our regional users and all people who really need this, creating the IGAD committee of eminent personalities who really work on different areas in political, diplomacy, and other social issues, and qualifying for EU pillar assessment in order to directly manage funding from our partners. Let me begin with the brick and mortar project. Last year, I was pleased to have hosted the IGAD chair, His Excellency Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, at the groundbreaking ceremony for the new IGAD headquarters in Djibouti. This year, we successfully completed the structural design of the building, which represents the face of the region. With the building now provisionally cost us $55.4 million, I will be delighted to formally launch this call for construction bids today in this podium. In April of this year, we broke ground on the IGAD Cancer Center of Excellence that will be in Addis Ababa, and we are aggressively building partnership for this funding and operation. I want to thank the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the leadership there for allocating the IGAD Cancer Center as a prime peace land in the capital city, valued at over $200 million. Most importantly, I want to thank the initiators of this center, who are a diasporas of these member states, the specialists who have extensive knowledge and experience on this area, who initiated this thing, the sons and daughters of this region. So I want to thank them for this initiative. I also express my sincere gratitude to the IGAD Partners Forum and the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who generously assisted us on this process. In the realm of building intellectual capacity in our region, today we will be also formally launching, Your Excellencies, a call for application for first 300 scholarship that will support the students from vulnerable communities to have access to higher education at the International University of Africa in Khartoum, Sudan, and Kampala International University in Uganda. This scholarship program will be our flagship project for integration through education, bringing the young citizens of this region to one university and to one plan to integrate them and to be friends. Most of us have experience of this, and that will be a lasting friendship that can be turned into a friendship which bond a friendship between countries and communities. To strengthen the ability of IGAD to drive our efforts to peace building from below and safeguard the prospect of our security and stability, I am pleased to announce in this address the launch of the IGAD Leadership Academy. I am confident that with the support of the member states and partners, the IGAD Leadership Academy will grow into a house that brings together, grooms and nurtures the next generation of leaders who will steer our region to even greater heights of harmony and progress. As you know very well, leadership is the most important component of the society to bring that society to the highest level. So I am pleased that this academy will bring together our crème of the leaders, the young leaders who can work together, who can learn together and finally share experience on this area. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you most certainly appreciate, The scale of our ambition can only be attained if we are able to marshal the resource to realize it. I am happy to report that during my time in office, IGAD has witnessed a tremendous improvement in the level of political will and financial commitment by our member states, many of whom are meeting their obligations in full and on time. However, there is still room for improvement. In order for IGAD to shore up our credibility as a rules-based organization and build our capacity to complement the effort of our generous partners, it is imperative that the burden of responsibility is equitably shared by all our member states. At this juncture, I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and sincerely appreciate the support of our firm friends and partners, including the European Union and its members, the World Bank, African Development Bank, and UN agencies, as well as members of the IGAD Partners Forum and Troika countries. Thank you for your collaboration and support. IGAD is also thankful for the cordial relation and bilateral ties we enjoy with new emerging partners who really are working very closely with us. Excellencies, I will conclude this year's annual address with the observation that our of circumstances what has come to define us through the decades. We cannot change the geography of our region, and we cannot choose our neighbors. In other words, the maps cannot redraw themselves. We are bound now and for the all time by the geographic, cultural, and economic ties that bind us, and we are inseparably connected to each other. This means, Your Excellencies, my brothers and sisters, we stand a better chance of overcoming our difficulties and thriving if we pool our resources and efforts only and only if together. Thank you very much.